Ambassador Zazo, thank you very much for joining us on Europe Now.
Good morning.
Italy in 2017, both regionally and globally, where do you see the country travelling at the moment, and how is it travelling? And I ask that question because in terms of assuming the presidency of the G7, there's a sense of Italy moving right back centre stage, not only in terms of European engagement, but particularly global political engagement. This seems a good time. 2017 seems a good time for Italy.
Let us say that 2017 is for us a very important year for many reasons. As you know, as you mentioned, Italy has the presidency of the G7. There will be the summit in Taormina in Sicily next May. Besides, we are right now members of the we have a non-permanent seat at the UN Security Council. And it is also an important moment within the European Union, as you know, especially after the outcome of Brexit. 1 month ago we had also the celebration regarding the 60 years of the Rome Treaty, and the celebrations took place in Rome because Italy was one of the founding members of the European Union.
Ambassador, in the wake of Brexit, the EU has faced enormous challenges, and of course Brexit has come hot on the heels of so many other global challenges. As you just mentioned, there's been the global financial crisis, the migration crisis that's unfolded so quickly since 2015 and its intensification, but other problems and issues and challenges that Europe has faced, the political terrorism and so many other challenges. In your opinion, is Brexit simply one further challenge to be added to that list? Or, as some commentators have been suggesting, might Brexit represent now a kind of tipping point for the EU?
Yes, it is an interesting question. I would say it is considered it as a further challenge for the European Union. Of course, we respect the decision of the British people. It was up to them to decide. Of course, until now, the European Union only expanded. We had 28 members, and now we will go back to 27. But we have also to consider maybe that Brexit could represent, in a certain sense, an opportunity. The position of the Italian government, shared by other countries, is that maybe it's time to proceed with a stronger integration process. We are talking about a multi-speed Europe, a two-speed Europe. A certain number of countries, the founding members of the European Union, the Benelux countries, France, Spain, Italy, Germany, and maybe some other countries, could strengthen their path to integration, because the real problem we are facing is that we have right now the European Union architecture is an unfinished one. We have a monetary union, but we don't have enough fiscal and social harmonization rules. We don't have the banking union has been finished yet. We don't have it. Maybe it's time to proceed fast in our common European defense, to create a common defense policy. And maybe this will be easier after the Brexit outcome than before.
Yes.
I see it as a challenge, but also as an opportunity. To summarize, Brexit is a challenge on one side, but it is also an opportunity.
Yeah. Another challenge, climate change, which remains very high on the European political agenda, and the EU has contributed enormously to the development of progressive carbon targets and policies. But again, some critics have been pointing out that certain European countries have been abrogating certain responsibilities in the context of some of these targets and changes. And I wonder, in terms of the very changes that we've been talking about to the political landscape in 2017, where there has been, from some administrations, a kind of downgrading of the significance of climate change, as to, from an Italian perspective, how you see this, particularly in the aftermath of the Paris Agreement.
Yes. Of course, there are challenges, but as a whole, I would say that European Union is can be considered one of, as a whole, still one of the most enthusiastic supporters of decarbonization of economy, supporters of the green economy, and the position of Italy is a very clear one. We strengthened our industry in the renewables, and we are one of the main players. Therefore, I'm quite confident that we are on the right track. That the European Union as a whole will continue to play a positive role in this regard.
Let me then move to Australia. The Turnbull government has developed a very strong focus after the resources boom that the country's seen, a very strong focus now on innovation with our National Innovation and Science Agenda, NISA, and seeking to engage other countries in terms of new opportunities and the challenges of innovation for 21st century economies. For Australians more generally, what can Australians best, do you think, learn and learn from Italy, and in terms of engaging with Italy from scientific innovation through to artistic innovation to business innovation and enterprise and industry and so on?
I would say we can learn both sides. What I really admire that I read your numbers. The Australian government is the expenditure for research and development is quite high compared to other OECD countries. The percentage to your GDP. Therefore, you are spending the right amount of resources for innovation and scientific research. Where the Italians can teach to maybe those are, or can give you a good expertise, is that we have an excellent relationship between between certain research institutes and our enterprises. A problem I'm already more than 3 years here in Australia. It's to explain to our Australian friends that when they ever speak about Italy, we enjoy a huge, very good image. No, but they say always Italy is the country of beauty. But I always underline it's not only the country of beauty; it's also the country of design, of technological skills, science, and for example, Ferrari. Ferrari is not only beautiful. Ferrari is high design,
cutting edge,
high technology. And this is a message I always try to forward.
And in terms of the Australian-Italian relationship, of course, so much of this has been shaped by post-Second World War. Immigration to Australia. If we look at Australian cities such as Melbourne and Sydney, huge Italian communities. But it's not just those communities. I mean, it's in terms of Australia more generally, the receptiveness of Australians to Italy, and some of it, of course, is stereotype. But I think for many Australians, Italy is the country that has given us, great food, a love of opera. And also things like, of course, you've given us Giorgio Armani and Gianni Versace. So many Australians are eternally grateful. But in that kind of context, and asking you to maybe look through an ambassadorial, sort of crystal ball here, going out to the future, and you say your 3 years at the embassy in Australia, what would you What do you firstly see if we were to jump forward 20 years, and what would you like to see in the development and the deepening of the ties between Australia and Italy?
Of course, as you rightly underlined, we have already a very warm relationship, a very cordial relationship, based also on the fact that we have almost 1 million people of Italian background here who integrated very well. It has been a success story, let us call it like this.
Yes.
And the Italians have worked hard, and they are really promoted here the Italian made in Italy, the quality of life, and so on. But what I would like, coming back to your question, in the future, I would like more to emphasize the complementarity of the Italian and the Australian people, because we have, first of all, two complementary economies. One, our economy is very much based on manufacturing. We are quite strong, and we will continue to be quite strong in this field. And I'm sure that we could strengthen our economic relationship, especially in fields related to steel machinery. We are going very well, but for example, defense, energy mining, and high quality consumer goods. Yeah, of course, the brands and luxury brands and so on, automotive. And on the other side, we hope and for us, for our companies, Australia could be really a foothold also to strengthen the presence in the Asian Pacific region. On the other side, we are looking forward to, especially to strengthen our reciprocal flow of investments. You have an extraordinarily strong banking, financial, insurance system. You have the rule of law, very efficient bureaucracy. And then the science we mentioned before, your education system. I think it could be a win-win solution. And in this regard, in my view, it's very important also a free trade agreement between European Union and Australia. I think Italy would be one of the biggest winners in the case of a future free trade agreement with Australia. And one thing I really also, your great richness is the multiculturalism, and I've seen the Italo-Australians here. They very much respect the rule of law, the multicultural values, and I think this is. It has enriched our Italo-Australian community, and I do consider our Italo-Australian community as an asset to strengthen the bilateral relationship between our two countries.
Ambassador Zazo, thank you very much for joining us on Europe Now.
Okay, thanks a lot.